Welcome everyone to Fish Friday number 2. Today we will be talking about the pufferfish from the pufferfish eating a carrot meme. It was requested by the community by one of our longtime supporters, Junior, as you can see in chat. So in honor of him and the lovely sounds that the pufferfish makes, let's get started. I do actually have notes this time, so we are much better prepared. Again, as always, if you have a question, either ask me in the comments below or chat. You can ask me here. So, first things first, this is the pufferfish actually from the pufferfish meme. This is Taki Fugu rubripees. Rubripees. It is really hard for me to say. This is one of the most used fish for what they call fugu over in Japan. And so that is what the meme is from. It is actually prepping that fish before prepping that fish for the fugu. So, as just a common thing, as many of you know, fugu is toxic. We will get into that. So, like I said, this is Taki Fugu rubripees. They actually will live somewhere between 10 meters deep and 135 meters deep. Somewhere in that. Second row, second window, this thing. Yeah, that's not actually a rubripees, I don't think. That's something else. But so they live somewhere between 20 meters or 10 meters deep and 135 deep. That is a very big range. Let's see what we're gonna. The max length, so as big as they get up to 52 centimeters in length, which I believe that's about 1.5 2 feet long, something about that. They actually spawn between mid-June and early July. Like most pufferfish, they are actually very maneuverable. And by maneuverable, I mean they can go sideways, they can go backwards, they can go up and down. They cannot swim very fast though, so they cannot escape predators. That is where the pufferfish part comes in. What happens to their food? It goes nowhere. You can after streams, Island. So, anyway, so when they actually inflate, they are actually in swallowing water, as Junior said. And if they're out of the water, though, they swallow air. What these things eat, they primarily eat algae, mollusks, so little snails, invertebrates, just little tiny bugs, or crustaceans. So tiny crabs, tiny shrimp, things like that. They lay eggs actually attached to rocks about 20 meters in depth, so about 60 feet deep. So they are actually near threatened as well, so they do have some potential overfishing happening. To give you an example, in 2004, there was 101 tons of rubripees harvested in I'm sorry. In 1987, there was 2,000 tons of what? Ignis. So in 1987, there was 2,000 tons harvested. And then, like I said, in 2004, there was 101 tons. So that is a significant drops of 1,900 tons, basically. It is a little bit about the less demand. Nice, new Paper Mario. So, you are on YouTube. Make sure you check that out. So, now let's get into what almost everyone cares about for this fish. The toxins. As you know, this is a delicacy in Japan, basically just because of how dangerous it is to eat. The toxin in their body is tetrodotoxin, It is actually in their skin. It is actually part of their defense mechanism. Not only do they blow up, but basically the fish is like, well, I'm going to blow up, and if you still eat me, I'm going to poison you. So the toxin, tetrodotoxin, is actually 1,200 times more deadly than cyanide. Let me repeat that. 1,200 times more deadly than cyanide. And there is no antidote. Some of them, Ignis. I don't think it does Ruripres, but all pufferfish. This is not just this species. Almost all pufferfish have the tetrodotoxin. Just not in that, because you have to remember the family that pufferfish are in, the Tetraodontidae. That means 4 teeth. They actually have the toxin is basically named after them, tetrodotoxin. They actually don't even produce that toxin themselves. They use the toxin created by bacteria that they eat. Anyway, because of this toxin, you do have to go to a licensed chef, which I believe in my research it said 2 years minimum doing this. They have to do a fish ID course. They have to show how to prep it and all this other things. So how this toxin works, yeah, like I said, Zana, like how this toxin works is it actually paralyzes the muscles while you stay conscious until you eventually die of asphyxiation. So you actually feel yourself die, and that is part of the kind of, how do you say, mystique of it, things like that. So, not for me. So, for those of you who are concerned, these are all the different species of what they would call fugu. So you got Tachyfugu obscurus, Ruripres, Niphobolus. Probably not going to see many of these because this right here is a length determiner. So this one is significantly smaller than Ruripres. Pardalis, Porphyrius, and Poecilonotus. Porphyrius is actually what I thought the memes fish was. And then further research actually did show that it was Ruripres, which is actually the most common one collected for that. Another interesting fact about Ruripres is it is actually one of the few fish that has been fully genetically, I don't want to say mapped. So when they're doing genetics, trying to figure out the gene strands of things, normally there's holes. The pufferfish is actually one of the only ones that we have the full genomic map of it. So most of my research was actually trying to get away from the genomic aspects of it. So, are there any other questions for this particular fish? I believe you're right, Xylan. Something like that. They have to repair it not only fast, they have to be able to identify the fish. It's apparently an intense. And then they have like a year apprenticeship. So here's another picture of this that are on the algae. Point of puffing up. Again, the puffing up is for deterrence from predators. So if a predator comes up where they feel threatened, the pufferfish just blow up. No, Xylan, because you have to remember most fish try and eat their things whole. Most fish teeth, so like your barracudas and things like that, most of your predators, they have a lot of teeth, but they don't chew. All they do, they have a lot of teeth to just grab the fish, and then they, the fish is dead, and then they just open their mouth and they swallow it whole. So yes, and bigger fish are, possibly there. That's actually a pretty interesting point, Zombie. They're not really predated. If you're going to say their main predator, it would be man. Um, However, something interesting about this fish that I didn't mention, didn't know if y'all would be interested. I guess it is. But when these fish are born, they hatch from their eggs and they're in a big group. What actually happens is the biggest ones in that group actually wind up eating their brothers and sisters that are smaller than them. So they are actually cannibalistic when they are larvae. So they're eating their smaller ones, and then the bigger ones in the middle eat the smaller ones than them. So it's just a stair step. So the biggest ones are eating the ones below them, and the ones below them are eating the ones below them. It's actually pretty common in the fish world for that to happen, because when you're young, that's when you're at your most vulnerable time. And when you are a fish, you want to get as big as fast as possible. And so what happens is because they're eating all those babies and they're easy to get to, they're getting bigger faster. So that's pretty common in there. In fact, some sharks, especially all sharks that give live birth, actually get pregnant with 2 pups. And what happens, well, not all of them. They're either born in separate horns of the uterus, or they're in the same horn and they literally eat their offspring while still in the womb. And then the one that manages to kill and eat the other one is the one that is born. Intense. All right. How's the flesh even? So it's more in the organs, Xylan, and the flesh is there. And it's not that they're not actually still getting toxin. It's just the preparation makes it to where it is a lower amount than what is deadly, basically. That is where from what I understood about it, it's you're not completely getting rid of it. It's more you're just getting it down super low, which is still pretty dangerous. That's the part of it. I don't believe it's actually within the flesh. I believe it's underneath the skin and in the organs. Probably, Xylan. Probably. All right. Thank you guys so much for stopping in to this Fish Friday. I really appreciate it. If you are watching this on the YouTube, please leave a comment down below about a fish you'd like to see, or just tell me what you thought of it. I would appreciate it if you subscribe. It's definitely not required. We will be back next Friday to see what fish we're going to talk about. Thank you guys again. Please